Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, thank you. Sorry, I thought I was on mute. I'd like to call this meeting in a great city school with males of color to order. Time is now 6:47 p.m. Present myself, committee member and chair. I see Mr. Albert Benahan's in the room, board member. And we've got, sorry, the phone numbers, I don't have their names. Dawuda Baraka, Dr. McPherson, Ramos. And if anybody I missed could identify themselves, please.
Joanne Kennedy.
Joanne Kennedy, I'm sorry, I knew you were here. And there's one more, I guess they could identify themselves when they speak. Natasha Noel as well, correct? Yes. Okay, this is gonna be a little different than our usual meetings.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, so this is gonna be a little different from our usual meetings, as this format really doesn't go back and forth, have a good back and forth feature. So if you wait to be recognized, I'll go down the list to recognize after Dr. Jenkins does a presentation, and we'll take questions and discussion, and I'll go in order of how it appears on my screen to make sure we get to everybody if they have questions or comments before we move on to the next subject. Okay, so now the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes dated February 26, 2020. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
And I'll second it. I find no material errors or omissions. If there's anybody else who has an issue, please speak now. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of approval of the minutes dated February 26, 2020?
Aye.
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 All right, motion carries. Minutes are approved. Second item up on the agenda is the update on the white paper. Dr. Jenkins, please take it away. Is Dr. Jenkins still here? Uh-oh. Oh, there she is, yes. Awesome.
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Sokolovich.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I attached to the Board of Education packet an updated version of the Males of Color white paper. I started formatting for completion. I will be adding committee members to this page. I started the table of contents with the introduction. Systemic challenges is the title of the section for data about males of color in the district. Information presented by members of the committee, their societal and educational perspectives, white supremacy, marginalization, definition of institutional racism, equity, Chef versus O'Neill, and magnet schools. This is all information setting the context for Males of Color initiative in Bridgeport Public Schools. There is a section on the voices from the community based on the 2 community forums held by the Board of Education. And then I added to the call to action, leading with intentionality and heart around the call to action for mentoring for males of color and call to action for equity audit. This is all information that was provided over the last 2 years of the work. Today, I worked on revising the introduction, providing some background on the adoption of the Great City Schools Males of Color position statement, which will be included in the appendix, stating, and it can be subject to revision, that this adoption was to address the needs of males of color within the district and to understand the effects of systemic racism and institutional inequity on the education of males of color. I'm just going to go over the introduction briefly and then summarize some of the sections that still need a little more work, but a large body of the document is here. The Board of Education Ad Hoc Committee, Males of Color, was formed in 2016 to assess, research, understand, and propose solutions to the exodus of young males who were voting with their feet, choosing to drop out or choosing to disengage with the current socio-political context of schooling. The paper strives to summarize the thoughts of the community members, personal experiences of committee members, and the literature of racial oppression and educational inequity in an effort to argue for overt structural support for males of color and to argue for the systemic practice of equity audits for children. Ibram X. Kendi, 2019, in his book on how to be an anti-racist, he states that racism is not equivalent of a slur. It is descriptive, and the only way to undo racism is to consistently identify and describe it and then dismantle it. To identify and describe the racism, challenges, and plight of men of color is to advance justice and equity for all children, because it is in the identification and description of the injustice that creates action. If all children lives matter, then we take up the mantle for all children when we assure that the male of color life matters. This white paper does not seek to compare males of color achievement to anything other than the standard of excellence that's been created for all children. This committee does not strive to present a response based on comparison. The committee strives to identify, describe, and recommend a systemic response to what, why, and how males of color navigate the school system as a whole based on the wedge between their current performance and the levels of excellence that is needed for males of color to thrive academically, socially, emotionally, and civically. More attention needs to be given to how to maximize males of color opportunities to learn and to achieve based on the standard of excellence within and beyond the school system. And this is from Asa Hillier's book, Young, Gifted, and Black. The ultimate goal of the white paper is to argue for formalized mentoring programs to provide young men of color with strategies, interventions, and experiences that will inspire them to make positive choices that ensure positive outcomes during their elementary, middle, and high school careers and beyond. And two, to argue for equity audit for the school system to restructure how males of color experience schools. So there will be a section on data that will summarize some of the systemic challenges males of color have experienced. I've begun to include the data about ISS and OSS. This section describes the setting for males of color and what males of color must deal with on a daily basis: white supremacy, marginalization and oppression, institutional racism, equity challenges, Chef versus O'Neill, magnet schools, which some of the literature states could be a hindrance to equity. There's a summary of the voices in the community and the call to action, which creates an argument for mentoring, and the National Mentoring Partnership information has been included, which has a focus on boys and young men of color to have a position paper. And then the equity audit information that was shared by committee members. And additional information to support the equity audit has been included from the National Equity Project, which clearly outlines how we can support equity in education. They provide recommendations. The Organization for Economic and Cooperation and Development, the OECD, defines two dimensions of equity for board members to consider. And they have 10 steps to equity in education that stem from design, practices, and resourcing. Some of what needs to occur to wrap it up is to, of course, do the committee member page. I need to add more data to the challenges, some academic data, revise and edit some of the text under societal and educational context, create some summary paragraphs to transition between some of these sections. And that's the majority of it. The largest section to be completed still is the specific challenges of males of color. Most of what needs to happen for it to read well is for some paragraphs transitioning between these major subheadings and some paragraphs like introducing the voices from the community. So most of the writing that has to occur is around summary and transition. I've concluded the update if you have questions.
Oh, Dr. Jenkins, I really am impressed. This is a very good job. I know you have a lot on your plate, and it seems like your plate never gets empty. Every time something gets off, something else gets thrown on. You're doing a great job in light of the circumstances, even not in light of the circumstances. This is a very well put together piece. I think it captures all the thoughts and work of the committee thus far, and it looks like a great starting point for the rest of the work that must continue. And now I'm going to go down the list of committee members, but I'm going to start with Ms. Baraka, since this is her original baby. And Ms. Baraka, would you like to make any comments or questions?
First, I'd like to say thank you, Dr. Jenkins. You did a phenomenal job, and I know you and I know Joanne also worked on this, and I don't know who else had their foot in it, but I could tell you did an excellent job, absolutely incredible. I just have one question. Well, I have a few questions, but one thing I was wondering: do you or any of the members think we should include the Crumpton versus Bridgeport case? Would that have any relevance in this, since it is a Bridgeport matter?
It does have relevance. At the time, someone else was assigned to write on that section. I had said with Mr. Sokolovich that I was trying to bring the paper to him to present to the board. So I still have the original document with the legal decision link. So I can go back and summarize. I may not do as well as the individual who was going to write, because each of those sections, the white supremacy was by Ms. Kennedy, marginalization and oppression of Black boys. I don't know who. I think Ms. Kennedy may have done that section too. Mr. Sokolovich, did you do institutional racism?
Yes.
So like it's Mrs. Baraka, it's almost like there's that personal spin. So
Okay.
I can do Crumpton versus Chop, but it wouldn't be like, because the person who's going to do it actually like lived through it.
Oh,
So I
okay.
can add it, but it won't have the same like personal touch that that individual would have brought to it, if that makes sense. Because I think Dr. McPherson may have done stuff versus O'Neill, and one of our students and now teacher in the district did the magic section. So I can add it. I just wanted to say it may not have the same like flair as the other individual.
Yeah, before you continue, Ms. Baraka, Dr. Jenkins, would that slow you down significantly in completing the paper?
No, it won't slow me down. It just won't, like, it won't tell the same story. I'll do my best to give it that feel, but each person kind of shows their section
Right.
based on their personal experience. I just
Ms.
want it does sound like great. That's the rationale. I think I can do a good job, but I don't know if it would be the same as the other individuals.
And Ms. Baraka, what level of importance do you have on this being included and impact if it's excluded?
Well, I think it's important because it was the Hartford area had the chef. We had Crumpton, and I think it's important that we at least in this paper acknowledge it. Dr. Jenkins, I'd be willing to take this on and pull some stuff together with it and then send it to you, because I think it's important that we just, this is going to be a document that's going to be available not just to the board, but to the public in general. And they need to know that at some point in our history, we did have a lawsuit, and that we've talked many times as when I was on the board about actually moving a lawsuit forward and trying to engage our community. This was going on at the same time that the CJEF, the CJEF lawsuit was moving forward. So it was thought, the line of thinking was that this might not be the time since there's already something big going on. But because we did have one, I think it's important for people to know the historical significance, and that people in the city were sitting back and letting things happen, that there's always action and movement in our city. So I do think it's important enough to include it when we could include it right under or after Chef versus O'Neill.
Right. And Ms. Baraka, you said you would be willing to take this on?
Yeah.
Dr. Jenkins' plate is very, very full.
No. Mr. Sokolovic, I realize that. That's why I offered. Right. And when is the deadline? When is it that you want this so that I can put my brain around it?
Probably as soon as you could possibly. Realistic.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, because we got a board meeting. We got a board meeting on Monday. And be able to tell them that it was very close to the. So if you get Dr. Jenkins something before Monday, just so she can have a timeline.
Okay. All right. So Monday. Okay, I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah. Whoever just came on, could you mute your microphone, please?
Okay. Yeah, Monday's cool with me. I can. I'll get it to you before like the weekend or by Friday. I'll say Friday or Thursday or Friday. What's today is? Wait, what is today anyway?
Today is Thursday.
Yeah. If I get it to you like in the weekend, you think you can put it up, or is that too late? Dr. Jenkins?
Yes.
I guess I would defer to Mr. Sokolovic, because he would tell me. So that's why I'm willing to work with you over the weekend. But Mr. Sokolovic, I would need to know what the deadline for it.
Right. There's no hard and firm deadline, but I would just like to have something to present to the board for Monday, and like a timeline, a wrap-up timeline. This is an ad hoc committee, and it's been ad hoc for a while, and through no fault of its own, there's been various barriers placed in the way, and this one just want to get closure. We'll see. This could be open. This could keep going on forever if we want to do every single thing. So this part just needs closure so we can move on to the next part, like equity audits, and just start focusing our attention elsewhere. Well,
I think it's important that we that I understand the need to move the action forward, but I also think it's important that we ensure that we get enough information in there, because again, whatever we put together and agree that this is the final product, and if you want to move it forward with with as it is, and then we add on later, that's fine as well. But I think that whatever is going to be the final document has to be something that's comprehensive and that hits on every aspect of what is going on in our city and then the recommendations and changes we need to see. So this particular lawsuit is an important lawsuit because it could have had a dramatic impact when it was first presented. And this goes back to 1993 when it was argued. So had we been able to put some teeth in it in 1993, we would really be looking at something different. And I think it's important that people know that there was action taken throughout the decades. It just didn't merit the same level of intensity as Chef versus O'Neill.
Right.
But so if this is a draft, not a final, then I said, okay, fine, then yeah, just so that the Board of Ed has something to look at. But I think we need to make sure that we we hit all the important points.
Right. So okay. So yeah, when you get this to Dr. Jenkins, how long turnaround do you think you need to incorporate?
Mr. Jacoby, I'm going to keep working until you have the paper for Monday, and I'll ask to read the latest that the packet can be sent to the board.
Right.
But I'll keep working. I did find the link and I shared it with you and other committee members just now. So I told you I knew where it was. I knew. So,
yeah,
I Mrs. Baraka, and maybe you can give me, because when you describe it, Mrs. Baraka, there's just a different tone than just reading and summarizing, what I just, read. So I can call you and speak with you.
Yeah, because I understand what everybody's saying, and I think the Crompton is important for the purpose of this paper, but we got to keep in mind with writing a paper, and because this body of work we could keep continuing forever if we want to touch on every single thing. But I do agree that this Crompton is important, even though I don't know much about it, but having it explained to me, it does make sense to have it included in this part of the paper for the body of work going forward. And in the future, we hope to touch on everything.
Well, the other piece is that what I'll do as well is I had children in the school in 1993, and I do have some personal stories. If we're looking for something personal, I can certainly be personal about this because I was fighting back then.
Yes, ma'am. Sounds good. So you and Dr. Jenkins get together, and if you could take care of that part, it would be great. Do you have any more questions, Ms. Baraka, or comments on this portion? Because
not at this time. I know I'm going to look through it, and I'll get with Dr. Jenkins if there's anything else.
Okay, thank you. Let me go
Jenkins, did you get my excerpt on the mentoring? I never got it. So.
No, I didn't. I can search my email to see. But I sent it. But
let's stay on the top. We're gonna get to the mentoring in a few minutes. Let's stay on topic and go down the list because if
this is for the white paper. So this is for the white paper. So I sent the excerpt a while ago.
And also, I forgot to mention, please state your name before you speak if I didn't call on you, because the stenographer needs to get the names down.
So Natasha.
Thank you,
Natasha. I was wondering if you got the excerpt. Dr. Jenkins, I sent it a while ago. So I'll resend it.
Do you have anything else to say, Ms. Noel, about this topic?
I'll ask if she got the excerpt I sent. So it sounds like she didn't. So I'll resend it again.
Okay, so Dr. McPherson, do you have anything you'd like to add or ask?
Yes, I do actually. And my hand was raised. So I was lowering my hand.
I'm sorry, I can't see your hand raised.
Just a protocol. So I don't know who's moderating right now, but it's a moderator to mute everybody until it's time to speak, because everyone is not muting their
yes,
devices.
Can everybody put their mic on mute, please? Who's not speaking?
I muted everyone, so if you're going to speak, unmute yourself.
Okay. All right. So
Okay.
if I could just continue, I just wanted to add, first of all, excellent job, Dr. Jenkins, and I almost, Miss Baraka, absolutely, your commentary around involving the Crump versus Bridgeport absolutely needs to be included. That's all I wanted to say.
I-
Is that all, Dr. McPherson? Or do you have more to add?
Yes. No, no, that's all I wanted to say. Just wanted
Okay,
to-
Mr. Ramos, do you have anything to add?
Not right now. I've been checking in with some of the kids from the high school men of color group. Checking in one-on-one. I've set up a couple sessions for us to meet as a group. That really hasn't worked out as well. But I have had some one-on-one sessions, and they're definitely checking in with me to make sure that they're doing okay at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Benahan, do you have anything to say?
No, no question at all. And I apologize before about my mute came out, but everything is good. And I like what Dr. Jenkins, her report was very good.
Thank you. Dr. Kearney, welcome and good evening. Do you have anything to add? Okay, I'll circle back if you got something. You're on mute if you're trying to speak. You got to unmute your microphone. Okay, next up, I guess, would be Amina. Is that Amina Brown? Or is that Eric's daughter?
That's Amina Brown.
Amina Brown. Amina Brown, do you have anything to contribute? If so, you got to unmute your mic to speak. Okay, hearing nothing. Let's see, Mr. McClellan. Where's everybody? Is that it? No, here we go. Okay, and I got a phone number up here. Two phone attendees. If you would like to speak, I believe one is Natasha Noel, and the other one is I can't recall. So if there's a phone attendee that would like to speak, please unmute your microphone. Or wait, you got to press what? *6 to unmute your microphone, I believe. So I hear nothing else on white paper, and I guess we know what we want to do. I'll give the last chance for anybody who wants to unmute to try to comment on here. Oh, she's not in a place to unmute herself. Okay. Ms. Brown says she agrees with the inclusion of the lawsuit suggested by Ms. Baraka. Local context is important. She wants to learn more about the equity audit and what steps will be planned following. Okay. So now, next item up on the agenda is a presentation on mass mentoring, and we're going to discuss some of the mentoring programs for going forward, and we'll also discuss some of the mentoring programs brought forth by our committee. I think we should start with the mentoring programs that are working through the Males of Color Committee. Maybe we start with Mr. Ramos. I know we haven't had school in a while, but is your mentoring program still in function?
Yeah, as I just mentioned, I have been checking in with students one-on-one. I've set up a couple times for us to meet, and again, that hasn't worked out as well as I've wanted it to. A lot of the students that are involved are also athletes, so I have been meeting with some of the football kids on a different, in a different way, talking about football, but that's also been a way for kids to connect and kind of be there for each other. But in terms of the group overall, I have checked in with each one of the students directly one-on-one, and we have had conversations on how they've been handling everything that's been going on, and trying to keep them motivated and pushing through the end of the school year.
Awesome. And as far as your, I don't know, has the budget been met, or I know he was like in the midst of budget approval and stuff before this whole COVID thing jumped off.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything final with that. You know, in terms of the actual sessions, I did all those in the fall.
Right.
So, you know, I took care of all that. You know, I wanted to, you know, get the T-shirts, get the books, you know, plan a trip. All those things were in my budget, but I've never heard anything about that getting approved or not.
Dr. Jenkins, what was the last the budget that discussed as far as the programs through Remains of Color?
The budget was approved, but it was approved so late that we went into the pandemic. One of the things I've learned in the district is if we want to implement mentoring.
Excuse me, Dr. Jenkins, you're kind of muffled. I don't know if everybody's hearing it muffled or is it just me?
When we're planning for mentoring, if we're planning for 2020, 2021,
right,
it really benefits to have the plan in place actually now. And perhaps because we're working on a reopening committee, and the three models for reopening are, of course, traditional, which most likely will not happen.
Right.
Hybrid, where children may be in school part-time and home part-time for virtual learning. And then the third way is full virtual learning. So if you're interested in planning for next year, it's not only important to create programming, it's important to create the budget and get quotes up front from vendors and providers. And if necessary, if you were going to do something small group face to face, it would be imperative now to include some type of personal protective equipment in the budget, like hand sanitizer and masks. The reason I'm stating that is the system runs very slow. So just to get a purchase order through the district to the city comptroller for summer school materials, I'm still waiting. So if it's something we are going to consider as a committee to continue to support mentoring, it's imperative to have the program and the budget together now almost for next year.
Right.
And I mean, with quotes and everything. And if the quote is over, if what you're purchasing is more than $999.99, you need 3 legitimate quotes, not even a quote from a cart at another location. Those are all the procedures that need to be put in place. If you're going to get a stipend, the W2 and all of those things need to be put in place immediately. I mean, I know it sounds like a lot, but every grant, every initiative we run in the district has to go through those chains of command. And so having worked with this now for a few years, if it's going to run smoothly, it's important for all of those, I'll say, operational components to be completed and drafted now. So kind of like what we're doing for the reopening task force. And as we work on that plan, the budgeting component is done as we do that plan. So those are some suggestions to not allow things to be slowed down.
Right.
And we want to do for children. I mean, I'm already looking to purchase materials for preschool, and we're not even near September.
Right. Yeah, for everybody on the call who might be unfamiliar, there's a bunch of committees going on right now, and we basically got 3 tracks, which is branching off to like many plans. So those of you planning on committees, planning on continuing mentoring, you really got to look at it 3 plans. What's my plan look like if the schools are fully opened, and and you may need PPEs, as Dr. Jenkins said, and what's the plan if schools are meeting every other week or every other, you gotta have like a whole bunch of if-thens in your head, and you maybe preliminary. I know it's basically a monster on the district level, less so at a smaller level like the mentorship programs. But and then what's it look like if it's all virtual? How will we carry out virtual mentoring, and what costs and expenses are involved with that? Yeah, so maybe the next meeting we could focus on budgets for the various committees. I mean, the various mentoring programs and stuff, and hopefully we can get it approved and keep momentum on these mentoring programs. And what was our overall mentoring budget last year, Dr. Jenkins?
I believe it was close to 23,000, 25,000. Remember, we started with a budget for a forum. It was the same budget as the previous year. Each program used $5,000. The request was not to spend as much money on food, but trips and things were very supportive. If you want to have a call before school is out to discuss it, but it's important to have it physically written down. I'll share the document that we used before for planning, if that's how you want to proceed, and you just take the document, black out, delete what was previously written and revise. Those are the procedures I must follow, and those quotes and that budget is so critical, because if you tell me that you're using school A and you give me the date, I give them to the secretary to put in immediately. If you tell me you're going to order and you get the quote before the food is delivered, it is so much easier. The business office doesn't want to reimburse anyone because everything is evaluated and audited once it gets to the city side.
Right.
It goes to the Board of Ed to the city.
Right. So that 25,000. How many mentoring programs did we split that between? Could you refresh my memory, please?
In the middle school, which Natasha Noel led, we split it between 3 high schools: Bassett, Harding, and Central.
So that's approximately about four or five.
Four, and that was 20,000. And previously, we had encumbered money for the forum. So if there isn't going to be a forum, then maybe the money could be split. But please know, Mr. Sokolovich, whatever you want to do is what I will do.
Whatever we as a group like to do.
But you're also the board member, sir.
Yeah, I know. I get it, but this thing here is run by consensus, and I go by the consensus of the group for the most part, unless y'all go off the rails totally, which hasn't happened yet. So we're pretty good here. The reason I'm emphasizing this funding and amount is so we can get a head start, one, and two, because there's been some talk around social media of a group getting $40,000 from the Board of Education, which is just not the case. And leading into that, I would like to recognize Ms. Natasha Noel to describe her program a bit for us. Ms. Noel? Is she still here? And is she on mute?
I think she can unmute herself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now.
Oh. Yeah, we're so our program is, designed to be group-based mentoring, where the whole group comes together and provides the community circle, and then we, break out small groups. What we've done since the shutdown is broken up our group of mentees into, and we've assigned them to a mentor. So there's about 3 mentees per mentor. And our program support is contacting the mentors regularly to make sure they are in touch with the boys. And we've provided kind of like guidance as to how the mentors can engage with the boys, even though it's not in person. And we provide them a small stipend. In the case that like a boy wants a basketball or something to play in his backyard, we can provide those small things in the meantime. So each mentor also has like a small stipend to support his mentee as needed. And the ask is that they touch base with their mentees at least every 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. And as you heard, if we're gonna continue, gotta get budgets together, and I think I'm gonna probably do that the next meeting a few weeks from now. I guess we can meet if everybody's available. I guess we could do a meeting over the summer, like early July, early August, or whatever, so we can have stuff in place in time if everybody's okay with that. Or at the very least have the people running the mentorship programs come present their issues. Dr. McPherson.
Yes. Hi. Good evening, everyone. So Central High School, our mentoring program, we had about 6 sessions prior to the closure. We continued with our model from last year, which was we met every other week. It's group mentoring with mentors coming in and presenting to our young men. We were just at the point of having the young men begin working on a project. It would have been a business that they were going to create. However, we went into, schools closed. I have touched base through Teams with some of the young men, not all, but some of them, just to see how they have been doing with their academic, especially some of those who hadn't been logging on through Teams in the beginning or were inconsistent. Just on a kind of a side-ish kind of note, but still connected to the Central High School Men of Color Mentoring Program, a teacher shared with me today that they were having a discussion in the class around some of the protests around the murder of George Floyd, and the teacher just asking the students who did they feel that they could connect with within the school, to kind of express and so on and so forth. And she shared that there were a couple of young men in her class who actually cited the our mentoring program, our young men, male of color mentoring program as a safe space to to express and share. So that was just today that was shared to me by a teacher. So I know that the young men absolutely positively wanted it, and it's just a tad unfortunate that we had to close. But part of my goal, especially, and I'm going to be quick, especially with what's going on now, is to kind of reconnect and see if I can actually get them into a space collectively via Teams. At Central, we've had a couple of listening sessions over the last 2 days with seniors and juniors today. Today we had over 20 students come together as we've invited the students in general just to share, their thoughts and their feelings around what's been happening. So I would like to do something similar with the young men, and there are a couple of outside mentors. So the Janet's House, we have Leslie Johnson, who has also worked with us since the school year began. Okay, that's what I have to share for Central.
Thank you. What else we got here? Do you have any other anybody else spearheading a mentoring on here? Let me see. I got some phone numbers. Got Mr. Ramos, Dr. McPherson. Okay, I think I got one of those phone calls from another school with the mentoring program that I'm missing.
Excuse me, Mr. Sokolovich.
Yes, Dr. Jenkins.
I wanted to say that I did share just now the budget and program template with Natasha Noel and John Ramos, Dr. McPherson, and I emailed it to Mr. Brockenberry at Bassett High School. I just wanted to say that if people wanted to work on it and get it to me, it would be helpful in preparing for next year. If the template needs to be revised, I'm willing to revise it. I'm willing to meet with people next week before school is out. I just wanted to share it's just difficult to get things up and running once the school year begins. And if it's completed, it's easier to execute, share with the business office and grant office so everything runs, well during the school year without any, delay.
Okay, and yeah, just for clarity purposes, last year's pot of money for the 1920 school year, that's still out there, correct?
No, all spending must be completed, I believe, by either April 1st or April 15th. There's a deadline set for the district. So this year, I believe it was extended to March 1st. So I don't know how Title IV dollars work. I know that some Title I money can be rolled over, but I don't know if Title IV dollars can be rolled over. So it could have been reallocated May 1st to another area in the budget that needed to be filled. But I am not aware of how the Title IV dollars are redistributed beyond the deadline, but there's always a deadline.
Right. Because okay, did we encumber like any of the money? Did we get any of the money encumbered as far as like staff stipends or out of pocket expenses that some may or may not have spent?
If needed, I know that business office will act on it, but I do know that if there are any out-of-pocket expenditures, it needs to happen now, and payment probably won't be rendered until probably August, because the city side is not, I guess with the pandemic, the process has been slow.
Right. So anybody who has got outstanding expenditures and everything that's falls under the umbrella should get them in sooner rather than later.
Very soon.
Very soon. Yeah, I think a lot of the deadlines have been pushed on I know Title One has deadlines have been paused and a lot of stuff has been allowed to be rolled over. And I believe parts of Title IV as well, but I'm not sure which as well. But I guess I could get with Ms. Siegel and question those things. Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any more of our local programs before we move on into the next agenda item, which is, oh wait, Ms. Kennedy wants to be unmuted. That's somewhere.
So to clarify, can you guys hear me?
Ms. Noel?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, please. Yeah,
So are we saying we're submitting whatever expenses we have for this year, and then we're also going to prepare for next year? Is that what I heard, or?
Yeah, that's what I'm a bit confused about too, because we have programs up and running for the prior year and for the coming year.
Based on my understanding, any funding that was left, I don't know what the chief academic office has done with it, but I do know that spending has basically kind of stopped unless something has been encumbered in its room. That's my understanding. That doesn't mean it's accurate.
Right.
I shared a document with the committee if Natasha, John Raymond, Dr. McPherson, if they wanted to prepare for 2020-2021 school year, this may be a virtual model in place or a hybrid model in place if we open. If they wanted to plan something out for the next school year, I share the document. But I believe all funding for this program has been probably diverted to some area, another area. If you want me to ask Mr. Testani and Mr. Sokolovich, I will do so. But based on my knowledge, no one's really spending any money, in the office. I know.
All right, yes, can you please just confirm that, please? And just maybe add that there's some outstanding, guys. I'll follow up as well, probably tomorrow or whatever, with an email stating the concerns about some expenditures may be out there already or whatever, and whatever we could get back to the people who made those expenditures or expectations would be great. Okay, so okay, next item on the agenda. Okay, where's my agenda? I lost it. Is the group mentoring programs. I think it's Miss Kennedy had something to say. I see her, she wanted to be unmuted. I don't know if she still has something to say. Can we unmute Miss Kennedy, please?
I didn't know I could say that. I've never unmuted anybody.
Okay.
I didn't know I could unmute.
Did Ms. Vajay do it, or did you mute everybody? Ms. Vajay, can you hear us? All right, no, okay. Let's see.
I think you're able to unmute yourself. So she could just unmute herself.
And she's on the phone. Does she press *6 or star something? Or is she on the phone, or is she on phone or video?
Yeah, she's still on the phone.
She's on the phone. I think she got to press *6 if I'm not mistaken.
I'll text her.
Yeah, please.
Just for the.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. There you go.
Oh, you can hear? You
Yes,
can hear
we
me?
can hear you now.
Oh, okay. I was just saying unmute me just in case I wanted to say something. So I was listening.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you
I'll
just
mute
unmute
myself
yourself?
again.
All right.
It just unmuted, I guess, but I'm gonna mute myself again. I was just listening just in case. Okay, so I'll mute myself.
All right. Thank you. All right. So, Dr. Jenkins, next item up on the agenda would be you, mass mentoring programs.
I shared some information about mass mentoring because I learned about it from a webinar. My primary purpose for sharing this website is to provide information to the committee about resources around mentoring. Additionally, I know Natasha Miller worked with mentoring in Massachusetts when she was studying in school. The site has a great deal of information around, the effects of mentoring and how, while, it seems like it may be money we have to invest, it's money well spent. They have studies in Massachusetts on mentoring. Just to provide more information to the group, I recently started reading the following document based on what Natasha Noel has shared. She, I know, has done a lot of work around athletic people and the National Mentoring Partnership. In this paper, in the packet, has created a guide on how to mentor boys and young men of color. It's the 4th edition, and I've referenced some of the information from this paper, this guide in the white paper. So I downloaded the guide, it was provided to everyone, and it is based on the work that Natasha Noel has referenced. So I just wanted to provide resources to the committee to support their thinking imagination about mentoring in the district for men to come.
Very nice. And that's the mass mentoring, and also it's connected to this is the National Equity Project as well for informational purposes as well for us moving forward.
Mr. Sokolovich, you had mentioned wanting to have information, because I'm speaking right on my microphone. I have no idea why people can't hear me, because
Yes, very muted.
I use the computer a lot. I have no idea why.
Yeah, I think it's temperamental.
Yeah, I feel like I heard about my name. I feel like I heard my name a lot, but I have no idea what was said about it.
I was just making reference. My dead body is physically over the microphone.
Yeah, it's really muffled.
I'm going to try something else. I apologize. I have no idea why this is.
Yeah, it's not your. I've seen it happen in meeting after meeting. It's like somebody just randomly picks on him to mute him. Are you on a headset?
I'm on my computer, the same computer I use all the time.
Now you're perfectly clear now. Now you're yelling at us.
Okay, I'm just saying I'm on the same computer I use all the time.
Right.
Mr. Sokolovich, you had shared that you wanted to do some work on equity. And so I went to the National Equity Project's website. I shared in the packet a variety of resources that could be made available to the committee. So I just wanted to share with you the website for the committee's review. I thought it was a good website. They have publications, they have webinars. You have mentioned, Mr. Sokolovich, the desire to work on implicit bias. So there are a variety of topics, equity 101 for people who have, want more background on equity, designing agendas for equity work, focal students, equity in the classroom, what does it look like? And so we could request from the National Equity Project one of these 1-hour webinars. Am I clearer now? Can you hear me?
Yes, much clearer.
Okay. Because I use the computer all the time and I haven't had a problem. So that's the primary reason I shared the National Equity Project website with you.
And from what I was looking at the website is that I haven't been able to peruse it fully just yet. So later tonight, I guess I'll look at it some more. But this seems like a natural area for us to move in as a group as the white paper is completed, and this is the direction where I think we need to go, is starting to look at everything through an equity lens as far as the impact of any learning, any curriculums, any oh my God, I'm mind blank. Any policies and procedures that are developed on the board level, and just to get our thinking as a board, as a group, as a board of education, as a public school, as teachers, as community members, to look at everything and its impact on equity and any negative impact it has on any disparate group. I think that's just the natural evolution of this committee and where it has to go. Does anybody have any thoughts? Let me start in a line again. Let me call on people so we're not talking over each other. So I will start with Joanne Kennedy. I think she's the first phone number. Joanne, could you unmute yourself? Okay, I guess not. Who else is on the phone? Miss Noel?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Is that Miss Noel?
Okay. Yeah. Was it the? I'm not in front of my computer. Is it the resource I had shared with you, Dr. Jenkins, that you're referring to?
I was referring to the National Mentor Partnership created a position or guide on mentoring of color. And they reference in the guide the My Brother's Keeper. And you had shared, you had done some work with My Brother's Keeper in the past.
Got it. Okay, so if it's the same document I'm thinking about, then yeah, that's great. What are you asking for, Mr. Kolovich?
Yeah.
Comments?
Asking if anybody had any comments on.
Oh no, I think it's a great guide. We can move forward with that one.
And also the what do you think about the direction of the committee going towards more like viewing things through an equity lens and do more equity work after as a offshoot of the white paper and as a continuation?
Yep, it all makes sense.
Okay. Mr. Albert Benahan.
No, not question at all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Who else we got here? Let me see, going down the list. Dr. Jenkins. Dr. Jenkins, do you think that's a natural evolution of our committee?
If the committee believes that that's a direction, based on the call to action, mentoring, creating a formal structure for mentoring of young boys and men of color is in the white paper. And it was Sana Shah who recommended the equity audit and shared the foundational information for a systemic audit, an audit that would not only look at what happens at the classroom, but would look at hiring practices, which goes back to creating a stronger argument from the Crumpton versus the Board of Education to be summarized because of the recommendation under the call to action. There was a call to action for hiring practices that it examines current procedures and policies and hiring practices that would create diversity that represents the children in our district.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Baraka.
Hi, yes. Dr. Jenkins, you offered information that helps me to better formulate the whole equity concept. Because my concern is that we state in the very beginning of our paper that we're not comparing ourselves to anything. We're addressing the need based on high quality standards. So as long as we're not looking at what Westport has or what Greenwich has, and we're looking at our district and how do we build what we need in order to support our boys, our young men, because they've already told us what they need. And I think we need to move forward there and make the standards high. And I think that we have enough people who understand what high academic and high quality academic standards are. But I was just a little concerned when we started talking equity, because sometimes that turns into comparing ourselves, and the beginning of this says that's not what we're doing. So I just wanted, Dr. Jenkins, I'm clear, and I appreciate that, and I am okay with doing going forward in the direction of equity, but just as long as we keep it focused with how the paper is set up.
Dr. McPherson.
Yes, I'm definitely in agreement that we do look at the work that we do moving forward through the lens of equity. And in terms of comparisons, no, it wouldn't be a comparison, but it provides a frame. Also, equity is basically the focus. I know the estate also has its own equity lens that it's looking at what it does through, through the lens of equity. So I think absolutely, okay, because equity, as we know, it's not about being equal. It's about ensuring that whatever it is that has to be done to ensure that our students, our young men are able to access as anybody else, then that those are the systems and practices and processes that we'll have to put into place. So yes, I'm in agreement. And also the work that Dr. Jenkins shared, the mentoring project, Young Men of Color Mentoring Project. When we first started, I did look at that document in order just to provide to help support the rationale for even central programs. So I'm glad that we are using that as well, right? It's sound work. Yep. That's my comment and contribution.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Sokolovich, may I follow up on Dr.
All right.
McPherson? I just wanted to acknowledge that Dr. McPherson has contributed to the white paper, and I will be adding her name in appropriate places to parentheses. I actually took part of what she's written about mentoring, which was at the beginning of the document, and I inserted it under the call to action. So Dr. McPherson is one of the reasons that I added that information to the packet as I was working on revising the document. And thank you, Dr. McPherson.
And Dr. McPherson, in all fairness, Dr. Jenkins has raised that up to me before, and I apologize for the oversight, and I would like to also thank you for your hard work on the white paper as well.
Thank you. That's no issue. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Mr. Ramos.
All good. No questions or concerns here. I think we should continue to push through with the equity lens. Makes sense to me.
Dr. Kearney. I see her on here. I really heard from her. Oh, I don't think she's on. I think she's listening.
She's on. Isn't she's on? She's here.
She's muted. I don't know if she's trying to speak or not.
Because I can't unmute her.
Okay, so is there anybody else who was overlooked who would wish to speak? All right, speak now, if ever hold your peace. All right, so hearing nothing, the last item on the agenda would be discussion of COVID inequities on males of color. It's kind of broad-based. We go all night on it, but does anybody have any thoughts on it? Because I know it's been somewhat of it's hard to say, but it's brought a lot of silver linings insofar as it has shined a bright spotlight on the inequities, especially in education, especially in the lack of devices and connectability and the disparate impact landing on the communities of color, and the lack of funding that provides things for our students. And I'm looking for a silver lining out of this that maybe we could build upon this, because it seems like a lot of the community is horrified that these things actually exist, and it's brought a glaring light and a lot of momentum. And I think that's something that we should try to build upon and just not let it's so hard to say stuff like this, like the positive that could come out of the tragedy of the COVID epidemic.
Mr. Sokolovic.
Yes, Ms. Baraka.
One of the things I think we should consider is the mental and health and the socio-emotional health of our young men, specifically, given not just the COVID, but also the some of the tragic events of our immediate situations throughout the country. Some months back, we talked a little bit about generational trauma. And I think that part of what we should look at in this paper is how do we support our young people with the generational trauma and trauma in general. And maybe if there's a way at some, since our children still have, our young people by and large have the technology to be able to send some information out. How do we support them at this time and afterwards? Because we really don't know what it looks like coming into September. We don't know what it's going to look like for school, and I think we need to look at how do we support them with services. I'm sure there's a lot of isolation out there. There's probably a lot of emotional, maybe even physical abuse that's going on. And as well as some may not feel supported academically. So anyway, that's one of the things I'd like us to begin to look at with respect to the work we're doing and these current events.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this subject? It's kind of open-ended, so.
Mr. Sokolovich?
Yes, Dr. Jenkins.
Perhaps if the leaders at the schools who would develop a plan, maybe the plan could be around using mentoring to provide more social emotional support, to engage in what I'm learning as not just, physical wellness, but intellectual and social wellness for males of color during this time. I mean, I'm just sharing a thought, but I mean, I think the reason mentoring is a good structure for males of color in our community is that it can be a support, whether it's academic, social, emotional, civic support, helping people to respond to acts that occur in the community, the world, or country. So I'm just, throwing it out on the table, the issue of wellness, maybe being a theme for mentoring next year.
That sounds like a good idea. And we could discuss that further probably at the next meeting as we develop budgets for the programmings. Was there anybody else who would like to speak on the subject? Hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. If nobody
So moved.
Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you. And I'll second it. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye. Everybody have a great night. I'll try to schedule another one about maybe another 3 weeks or so because I want to get started on the budget and hit the ground running. As Dr. Jenkins, very professional.
Yes, and I emailed Marlene and the superintendent about this year, school year 1920.
All right, thank you very much. Everybody get home safe, be healthy, and thank you for all y'all do.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Bye, everybody.